Well, greetings, everybody. It's good to have you all here. Welcome to the second of three cybersecurity webinars that AwareForce is putting on. The third one comes your way in a couple of months. It will be designed specifically for employees. We're not going to do any AwareForce promotion. It's going to be designed for something that can be shown to your workforce. We're live recording this on the 11th of May. This is 3 days after the cybersecurity headlines regarding Colonial Pipeline and the ransomware attack. Uh, Never being one to let a good emergency go to waste. This is actually a really good time to be doing this webinar because of that. And we'll explain the psychology behind that. We'll explain why that's the case coming up. We're going to start out. We'll give you a quick overview for those not familiar with AwareForce, who we are and what we do. We deliver two cybersecurity newsletters every month. It's completely branded for each customer, designed to make your IT team the subject matter experts in the eyes of your workforce, make that connection between you and them. We include videos, answers to reader questions, which has been a big hit. We started it a couple of months ago, and as we'll show you, the results are pretty interesting in terms of what employees want to know. We do cyber quizzes, cyber news for non-techies, and other interactive features in each of the editions that come out. You get one on the first of the month and once on the 15th of the month. It doesn't take any time for you to send it out, maybe 5 minutes. And we don't collect PII. We're very aware that as a third party vendor, you don't need more hassles and stress over what information the vendor knows about your workforce. So as we go along, some of the content that you're going to be seeing comes from AwareForce. And if you're interested, uh, give Suzanne a ring, a ping, and we'll explain more about how AwareForce works. As for me, my name is Richard Warner. I have a long career in radio and television in the Southeast for PBS and Fox, which is kind of strange bedfellows when you think about it. I ran a web marketing agency for many years, and that's where I learned a whole lot about about how people use the web. And I was also the MC of cybersecurity summits around the country, and that's where I learned what you are up against, and over the course of a number of years came to understand the stresses that go along with being in cybersecurity, and perhaps some innovative solutions that we can offer to you. As we go along, it's very important for you to remember what your employees are up against. You know what you're up against, which is, basically all kinds of technology challenges. You don't know what you don't know. There's budgetary challenges. There's cultural challenges within your organization, no matter who you are, no matter what your organization, trying to get other managers, upper management to go along with what you know needs to happen is a huge challenge. But this is about your employees, and they've got a similar outlook. They have to get their job done quickly and efficiently. They don't want to get in trouble by making mistakes. They want to please their boss. And unless you're their boss, you're ancillary to all this. And they've got to somehow please the spouse and keep the family, you know, in the lane while they're doing everything else. So employees have a lot going on in their lives as well. But it's important to keep all that in mind. This 45-minute webinar actually can be boiled down to these three words. You will be a success if you can use your workforce to cut response time. uh, you've got an army of people out there who are, they don't have the same priority that you do, but if you can engage some of them, you can dramatically reduce the time that it takes to get alerted to a cyber breach. And that really is what's going to go on in as we talk about things you can do to be more effective in engaging them. I will tell you that the 80-20 rule applies to employees. It applies to just about everything that we're going to be talking about here. 20% of your employees are going to be engaged. 80% are not. But 20% is enough. That's a lot of people and a lot of bandwidth that you can tap to your advantage. And it's reverse is true also. 20% of your employees know that they could be scammed, but 80% of them think that they're too smart for that. And we all know that that's not the case. Anybody can be scammed, even you, even me, and indeed I have. So if that all is what we have to deal with, your priorities on the job, your employees' priorities, the 80-20 rule, what is the best outcome that we can hope for if we do everything correctly? And we believe that it's this. What you want is for cybersecurity to be this vague buzzing noise in the back of the heads of your workforce. It's never going to be top of mind the way that it is with you. But what you really want is for employees, as they're going through their workday, if they encounter something that's not quite right, you want that buzzing noise to come through and stop them from making a snap judgment, clicking on a link, downloading an attachment simply because it's urgent. I'm going to show you some statistics now that perhaps will bring into clearer focus what it is we're up against as we try and steer this gigantic ship that is your workforce in the direction that you want them to go. The first stat is 91%. This is from IBM, and that is that at some point in a cyber breach, an employee somewhere is going to be involved. It's like herding cats. It's an enormous challenge. But the fact is, because we're people, because we're human, scammers know that that's the logical place to start. And it's an enormous attack surface. It's impossible to protect all of it. What you can do is improve the numbers from 91%. This was slightly more concerning, and this is a fairly recent number that 43% are malicious employees. So these are people who aren't making stupid mistakes. They're doing it on purpose. Now, it's not as bad as it looks. It's not employees who view your crown jewels as something that they can make money off of if they sell it to a competitor. There are some of those, that's a very low number. What these employees are mostly made up of are people who are about to leave. And they take sensitive information. What is that? That could be a customer database. It could be a PDF with your best practices or your cybersecurity plan, something completely unrelated to cybersecurity. So some of these employees know what they're doing, and that's really tough to address. How about the cyber training that goes on at about 1 out of 3 companies do it once a month. Most companies do it once a quarter or once a year, which is a waste of time. One of the key takeaways from this webinar is that you have to continually engage employees to get that buzzing sound to happen. 75% of what they learn is gone in a day, and 90% of it is gone after a month, after a week, pardon me. The key is repetition. As you will see, the question becomes, who on earth has time for that? In our experience, even organizations that have somebody who's responsible for cyber communications, internal communications to the workforce, that person tends to wind up with projects that take them away from that mission. Scope creep. So that's one thing Awareforce does, is provide an easy solution that's turnkey that can just be forwarded to the workforce. And that's kind of that's our business model. So let's go into basic marketing and advertising to employees, to humans. A human is going to have to be exposed to something 7 times before they will consider it. So think of that as a cybersecurity fact. You're going to have to hit them 7 times in order for them to even begin to register. If you want to change their behavior, you're going to have to do even better than that, which is 10 to 20 exposures. I'm going to give you an example of how this shows up in your life every day. And it kind of goes back to marketing and advertising 101. If you want employees to remember, you have to hit them over the head with it. It used to be you had to do it with punishment, with messaging that wasn't very much fun to watch, very much fun to read. It was like, this is your duty, you will do it. And in this first video, this is the way that your parents, or if you're older, us, this is how we got people to remember things in the 1960s, by repeating this over and over.
How's this, Mommy?
Oh, that looks good. Hi, darling. Hurry and get ready for dinner. PTA meeting tonight.
Ellen, please. I just got home. Don't rush me. Control yourself. Sure, you have a headache. You're tense, irritable. Don't take it out on her.
You need Anacin.
That message was repeated over and over. And in some cultures, at organizations, companies, governments, whatever, that's still the way that things are managed. The problem is that it's not going to be as effective as, say, this commercial, which you do remember, which gets you to remember things by being a lot more enjoyable to experience.
All right, guys, no insurance talk on beach day.
I'm down.
Yes, please.
Don't get me wrong, I love my RV, but insuring it is such a hassle.
Same with my boat. The insurance bills are through the roof.
Be cool.
I wish I could group my insurance stuff. Like the house, the car, the RV.
Like a cluster, an insurance cluster.
Yeah, I doubt that exists.
The bundle! It's a bundle and it saves you money! Hi,
That's the difference between the way it used to be done, not as effectively, and the way that it's done now. So let's, now that you get if you can possibly make it fun, at least don't make it a punishment. Employees will be more receptive to the information, cyber information that you provide them with. What's the best way to reach them? It's still email. Some folks, we've encountered this among our clients, don't want to do email. The attitude is our employees are bombarded with it. They get too much email. But the fact is, it's still the most effective way to engage people, particularly right away. If you send the email out, it's going to be open within 6 or 8 hours. The web is, if you push them to the web, you can do a lot more on the web, a lot more interesting stuff, because email is dumb. But web comes in a distant second. Social media channels. We've seen some companies that are doing cybersecurity. They're trying to be innovative with it. News Corp, for example, has been trying to use Slack, social media channels. There's another customer that does everything exclusively on social media to employees. The engagement, it's creative, but the engagement is not there. And then at the bottom, we've run into this a bunch of times where internal communications wants to beef up the intranet. They want to get people to the intranet, employees to the intranet, because that's an easy stop for them. It's a one-stop way for them to communicate payroll information or company policy, or, you know, if we can put some cybersecurity stuff in there, well, so much the better. And it is, there's no reason not to do it, except that it doesn't work. Focus on email as the most effective way to engage and communicate with your workforce. I mentioned to you that AwareForce puts out metrics once a month for our employees, very important to some of them, about how employees are consuming this cybersecurity content. And this is what we've learned. People will respond to the high level stuff that you send. The more detail you get and the longer it is, the more it takes to read, the fewer people are going to engage with it. So put your best stuff up front. And I don't mean to discourage anybody. I'm not the only one who has experienced this metric, but only 20%, back to the 80-20 rule, only about 20% of your employees are going to engage in the cyber content that you send. Most are going to skim over it or not open it at all, which may sound like a real bummer. But the fact is, if you can get 20% of people engaged and doing it, you have an enormous army of resources at your disposal that can be a tremendous help, because they will spot things that are going on that can conceivably be dangerous. So what matters? Headlines. That's the subject matter of your email and the way you title communications within the email that you send to your employees. Here's an example.
And the local news, man, they want you to watch every broadcast they've got, don't they? It's not good enough you're watching the one you're watching. They do these teases to get you to watch later on that are so incredibly cruel. It could be the most deadly thing in the world, and you may be having it for dinner. We'll tell you what it is tonight at 11. Is it peas?
So the point of that is you have to get their attention. You have to grab it with something pithy and short, make them curious, make them want to click. Boy, is that a takeaway from this webinar. You have to make people want to do something. You can't punish them or threaten them into doing it. And that means, just as that tease that Ellen referred to, here's your key word for everything that you put out to your workforce. And it's what we try and focus on in what we do. That word is snackable. You want your content to be brief. Yes, there's a whole lot of detail that you want your employees to know about some cyber issue. But the fact is, they're not going to remember it. They're probably not even going to read it. So boil it all down to the most important, positive, easy to understand, snackable approach, and they will remember it longer. The best content, and this is where doing this webinar on May 11th comes into help. High profile news. You've got that right now. This is a rare opportunity for you to seize on a news headline that people are talking about. And of course, that's Colonial Pipeline's ransomware case. They know it's ransomware. They know it's Colonial Pipeline. What they really know is that gas prices could go up. Do I have gas in my tank? Because gas could run out. Probably won't. But nevertheless, don't let a good emergency go to waste. This, like the Equifax breach, is a rare case for you to engage with your workforce, show yourself and your team as the subject matter experts and as the heroes, because you can explain this in ways that ABC World News Tonight is not going to do. And that is purely from a cybersecurity standpoint. What do they need to know about avoiding this trouble on the job? And we'll show you what that looks like coming right up. We're also going to show you another very effective way to get employees to remember the message that you want them to take away. This works during times when there's not a big news story going on, and that is by showing a demonstration of something. These are on YouTube. You can find them. Demonstrations of how people get hacked and what happens when hacking occurs. So let's take the first one. This first video we're going to show you is some of our clients who are on here have not even seen this yet. We put it together super fast. We threw out the editorial that we were working on over the weekend and created a video about Colonial Pipeline and what you need to remember as an employee in order to avoid having this happen to your company, to your job. So this is the lead story that's going into the edition of AwareForce that we'll be sending out today and tomorrow. This is a quickly assembled video designed to explain to employees about Colonial Pipeline and what it means to them. When Colonial Pipeline realized it was being hit with ransomware, the company quickly shut down its computer systems. But the damage was done. Almost half the gasoline deliveries along the U.S. East Coast were temporarily halted. This is a serious case, but it's not unusual. Last year, 2,400 U.S. companies, governments, hospitals, and schools were victims of ransomware. Files on employee computers were made unreadable until hackers received a ransom payment. And even then, more than 9 times out of 10, the victims did not get their files back. Some sophisticated ransomware attacks are carried out by enemy governments, but most rely on tricking an employee into opening an infected email attachment, something like a PDF, Word doc, or Excel spreadsheet. We don't know what exactly happened to Colonial Pipeline, but it's possible the attack began when an employee opened what they thought was a legitimate email, something like these examples that we've put together. Here's an email that appears to come from a federal agency with an urgent warning. The employee's email address is correct, but the address it came from is not the same as the employer's. This email warns the employee about a problem with their Microsoft Office software. The email is not genuine. The sender's email address is close to the employer's, but it's not exact. Here's a fake email with an urgent warning. Act now or you'll lose access to your work email account. If you receive an urgent email from IT or senior leadership, call them directly to confirm the message is genuine. Finally, here's an email about an unexpected tax refund that looks like it came from accounting. Even though it appears to be genuine, it's from scammers who simply want help signing on to the Office computer network. So where do crooks find information about you and your job? Well, many times they use LinkedIn. The more information someone posts about their career, such as a job promotion or change in employment, the more convincingly a fraudster can personalize a fake email message. And the result can be a shutdown of gasoline deliveries along the East Coast. Because we want it to be you, not us. So that's how you can approach a breaking cyber news story. Now let's look at the one you can do when there's not a breaking story. This would be a demonstration which is extremely memorable. This is very well done. It's about 5 years old. We leased it when we first opened for business. And it does a very good job explaining by demonstrating how a social attack can work.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. My husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby, and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information, and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying, and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30
At
seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yeah.
So what did we say? 80% of employees think they're too smart to be hacked. I will tell you that we bleeped out the cuss word in it. I guess it went on cable news that way, but we decided to be clean. So those are two examples of how video can engage your workforce in cybersecurity. One of them timely, one of them not. And again, let's go back to the primary goal of this webinar, in fact, of your engaging your workforce. And it's those three little words. What we want to do is cut response time. You want employees to reach out to you as soon as they have a question if something is amiss, and they have to feel safe in order to do that. Which brings us to, do I use the carrot or the stick? I mentioned that I emceed cybersecurity summits around the country, and we got into this discussion one time, and the CISO of a large Florida utility was very frustrated and said, we just can't get the team, we can't get the employee base, particularly those companies that we have acquired, to engage in this. They keep failing their their phishing quizzes. And so we've decided we're going to start a 3 strikes you're out rule, and we're going to fire people. So let's talk about that. Is it better to use a carrot or a stick as you engage with your workforce? If you really want your employees to become cyber smarter, they have to want to do it. You can do that with financial incentives, even small ones. You can do that with stickers. You can do it with t-shirts. We'll show you an example of something that's coming up that we're going to be doing that costs nothing. Make it positive, make it interactive, topical wherever you can. And here's that fourth bullet point that you see here. There's debate based on the culture of many organizations out there. We put about 50% of the content in AwareForce is focused on your family, employees' families and their kids and that sort of thing. And we more than one occasion have had customers, bosses say, nah, take all that out. All we care about is they have to focus on cybersecurity at the office. But that's a mistake, because again, what we're trying to do is get employees to want to do this. And you can only do that if you approach it in a positive way. Want some more proof? This is an expert, a psychologist by the name of Aubrey Daniels, who I've done some work with Aubrey. He is a behavioral scientist. an expert in the works of B.F. Skinner, to get into the weeds here. And basically, Aubrey is all about improving employee engagement. In his case, in places like nuclear power plants where it's critical. And so his takeaway from this is that if you want to engage employees, you have to remember 3 letters, PIC. To change employee behavior, you have to be positive. You have to apply the results immediately, and it has to be certain. PIC, positive, immediate, and certain. And here are Aubrey's thoughts about whether to use punishment instead of positive reinforcement.
Punishment is very difficult to use effectively because it requires that you do it immediately, that you do something that in fact is meaningful to the person in terms of something that would actually have an impact on their behavior. And all of this is very hard to do, particularly on the spot. And if you don't do it on the spot, it's not going to have much impact. What punishment typically does from a physical standpoint is to shorten muscle fibers, which reduces flexibility. It reduces not only physical flexibility, but it reduces mental flexibility. So you can't think as well, when you're under a threat of punishment as you can when you're not.
So let's talk about the positive things that you can do, actual concrete steps to get the buzzing noise going in their heads and reduce response time when it comes to being notified about cyber risk. First, give your cyber initiative a name. Wrap it around a brand. We've seen it with Anison, and we've seen it with Progressive Insurance. Do it for your cyber initiative. Get it a logo. Get the marketing team to put a logo together, or go to Adobe Stock, spend $3 and get some sort of icon that you can give some visual appeal to the initiative that you come up with. Brand your events. So here's something, Andy, thank you very much. Coming up this summer, in July and August, AwareForce content is going to focus around summer phishing camp. So this is going to be a 2-month-long initiative where most of the content in the AwareForce newsletters will revolve around phishing. And we gave it this brand, and we came up with this logo. And some of our clients are going to give out these digital patches as employees do things, participate, score well on the quiz or whatever, merit badge. So do it for Cybersecurity Month in October. That's a big deal for us too. Brand your Cybersecurity Month. And even though you're creating something out of nothing, it is more apt to stick, to be remembered by employees. Remember I said the primary goal of this webinar is to cut response time. Out of all the slides you see, this is the most important one. It actually goes a little deeper than it appears. Provide a channel for your employees to communicate with you. Yes, it's going to mean more emails coming into you. Assign it to somebody, or realize how important it is and do it yourself. They have to feel trusted. They have to feel safe, but they will ask you questions that can alert you to cyber troubles. We began doing this. We went one step further a few months ago with AwareForce, and we began including an area where employees could email us questions. They didn't have to tell us who they were. They could actually, you're about to see, they felt a little safer asking what would otherwise be dangerous questions. But we were totally surprised by the volume of questions that we got from employees. And right after the newsletter goes out, we're getting 50 plus a day. By soliciting questions, you'll get a sense of what your workforce is curious and concerned about. And I'll tell you, I'm surprised how much more sophisticated the questions are, even if it's only coming from that 20% who are actively engaged. These are the topics that we have seen in the last 90 days that employees have submitted questions about. Uh, they're engaged with software and they're curious, particularly about privacy, how they can tweak the software so that it's safer for them to use. Phishing. I think I clicked on this fish. What should I do? Boy, do you want that. You don't want them to feel scared or intimidated. You want them to feel safe and comfortable asking, because even if you have the fish me button, there's still going to be some that slip through, and employees are going to be embarrassed about that. What kind of questions have we actually gotten? Well, I pulled a few of them that came in on Thursday and Friday of last week. And these are the questions. This will give you an idea of what's actually out there. The one that surprised me the most is in the upper right. Because we don't insist that they tell us their names, they're more apt to be honest in the questions that they ask. And at AwareForce, whenever we get a question from somebody who does put their company email address, it's an option if they want, we'll forward that to the customer so that they know what's going on and can respond to the employee if they want. Sometimes they're specific questions about a company's policy. But this is an example of something that surprised us, that people would take advantage of it as often as we do. Having said all of this, you're going to have to commit, if you haven't already. You're going to have to commit resources to it. It's going to have to be ongoing, regular. It's going to have to be drip, drip, drip. That's why AwareForce is twice a month. It's because people just forget. It's not their priority. I'm going to tell you a story that I told in the last webinar, but I got all kinds of response to it. So bear with me if you've already heard this before. I've done some work with the senior management at Chick-fil-A. Dan Cathy, the CEO, I interviewed him for their archives. It was an 8-hour interview. And he told me a story during that interview that really made an impression on me, and it's completely relevant to what we're talking about here. So his dad, Truett, founded Chick-fil-A back in the mid 60s. And obviously, if you know about Chick-fil-A, it's there's a rich culture that goes along with the company. Truett was a very interesting and really a wonderful guy, just very grounded, and knew what he wanted his company to be. It's why they're closed on Sundays. If you've ever gone into a Chick-fil-A and you made your order and they take your money and they hand you your change back and you say thank you, the person on the other side of the counter answers, well, they used to answer no problem, like everybody else does. But now across the organization, every employee says, my pleasure. Thank you, my pleasure. It took 5 years for that to happen. At their operator retreat in the Bahamas, the first year, Truett Cathy stood up and he said, I want you to do this. I want you to train your employees to say my pleasure. And everybody forgot. The second year, he did it again. And then the third year, he actually began to lose his temper. The third year, it took 5 years, and part of basic training and constant reminders to get employees to say my pleasure. How does that impact you? Constant reinforcement of basic cybersecurity priorities within your organization. Okay, we have a few minutes, and if you have a question, please type it into the chat window, or comment or advice or mistakes that you've made. That's the best of all. While we do this, since we have a little bit of time here to do it, I'm going to touch on something that we didn't get to last time, and it's kind of the hidden monster back there that you may be up against, and that is buy-in from your leadership. The culture of an organization is going to determine how big a lift this cybersecurity engagement is. How easy is it for you to engage your employees, to reach them, to engage them, communicate with them? Some organizations have trouble because of HR being the gatekeeper, perhaps for good reason, but it means you got to be a politician and engage HR and ask for their feedback. It could be that the CEO, this is what happened with Equifax. The CEO was far more focused, the former CEO was far more focused on growing the top line of the business than he was on protecting the data. So getting buy-in from leadership involves some psychology on your part, and that is, how do you manage the culture? And there really is not an easy answer to this, but this could help you. First, wherever you can find metrics, pass them along to senior leadership, the boss, and eventually the board if you have one. Metrics need to be in English. They need to be colorful. They need to be brief, um, cream of condensed metrics. But whatever metrics you can show is going to be a big help. Brief, keep it short, executive summaries. As much as you want to go into the detail and explain what it is you're doing and why it's so important, they're not going to scroll. They're just not going to remember it. So make sure that it's easy to digest. If you are in a regulated business, you can attach backup documentation to the executive summary. That may be important for what you're legally required to accomplish. And then a lot of you have this. I've seen it in the Midwest. I spoke to ISC Squared in Dallas. What's going on out there? If you can share best practices with other folks in your region or with your cap size, capitalization of your company, it will be a really valuable effort and time well spent. Our attitude about this is, you are the hero. You are the subject matter expert. You're not Dr. No. You are here to protect employees, their families, the crown jewels of your organization. What you're doing is really good work. So thank you for being with us. If you have any comments or questions, please enter them in the chat box and we'll get to them. I don't see any. I see Andy's stuff about fishing camp, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And Kevin, good to see you here. Dan, Larry, good to have y'all here. Senior. We will record, this is being recorded. We'll put it up on YouTube. The first one's already up on YouTube, and through the various channels, we've had a whole bunch of people watch this after the fact. So there you go. That's how to turn your workforce into a cyber army. We thank you for being with us, and y'all have a good day.